This is Rudy Giuliani, and this is America's Mayor live from Palm Beach, Florida. Behind me in the dark. uh, if you were watching the Rudy Giuliani show on X and on Frank Speech Network, you know that I was about to talk about a case that is really a travesty. Now, we think of the cases that are a travesty as the political cases. I mean, we sure have had enough of them involving Donald Trump and his supporters and his friends and his and Republicans and conservatives, including, of course, yours truly. But this is a gentleman. This is a young man named Daniel Penny, a United States Marine who happened to be on the subway earlier or in the middle of last year, in May of last year, and this guy named Neely came on the subway, a guy with a massive criminal record, alleged to be mentally disturbed, but I mean that doesn't really matter when he smashes you across the head, beats you to death, or kills you, and began threatening to kill people. And Neely, rather than just sitting there and letting these people be intimidated, jumped in, volunteered, and grabbed the guy by the back of the neck and held him there. They say it was a chokehold. I look at it very, very carefully. I'll try to get you a picture of it. I don't see a chokehold. I see it up here. In any event, it's close enough, so I don't see how you bring this case. There are witnesses who testify that they thought he was unnecessarily harsh. And one of the guys who testifies is a homeless addict himself and an advocate. A homeless addict. I'm sorry, is a homeless advocate himself who really seems to have. He even admitted, I just don't like him, and he says that he was too vicious in the way he did it. But at least three of the people on the train that I can figure out have testified that he was absolutely justified. Althea Giddings, who told the jurors that she was scared essless by Neely's rantings, can be seen on video giving a statement right after Penny's chokehold takedown of the homeless man. And this was contemporaneous statements. Of course, they were also introduced at trial. I think this guy was on drugs. He scared the living daylights out of everybody. She said Penny took to the ground and put him in a chokehold, but not a hard chokehold, just enough to secure him. And she thanked Penny for doing it. Like a criminal case to me, huh? That was one of the people on the train. Lori Citro, who was on the F train, taking her 5-year-old son to a therapy appointment. She saw this guy shouting in people's faces. That's Neely, the career criminal. And Neely was shouting in people's faces, I don't have water, I don't have food, I don't have a home, I want to go to Rikers Island, I want to go to prison. Then he started, according to her, lunging in different directions and at different people. He was very erratic and unpredictable, says Lori Citro. It felt very scary. It was increasingly loud, and it felt increasingly threatening. I would describe it as belligerent and unhinged. I actually took the stroller that I had and put it in front of me as a barrier to protect my child. I've been in the Big Apple for 30 years, says Citro. I've seen unstable people before. This felt different to me. On cross-examination, the deranged prosecutors, you're deranged to bring this case, by the way. This comes out of Bragg's racism. Asked her, well, did he lunge toward you or threaten to kill you? She said no. But but all these other people, and she was afraid that he was going to do it. And again, she felt very relieved at what Penny did because I was scared for my son. Citro also said it didn't seem that that the guy was resisting very much. It didn't seem like Neely's breathing was in distress. Body cam footage from the police shows another witness saying that Neely scared the living daylights out of everybody. And he says that moments before Neely tackles him. And then there's another witness, Dan Couvrier, who said he was terrified by Neely. And he knew things were going to be bad as soon as Neely kicked off his alarming display by aggressively throwing his jacket on the floor. I've ridden the subway. I wanted to be as far away as possible, this Brooklyn resident said. I've ridden the subway to and from work. This was another scale of the desperation he had in his voice, the anger, the aggressiveness. I was very terrified. He saw Neely take him down, and then he exited the train, and he was very surprised as to what happened because he didn't see the degree of force as being, shocking or whatever. Now there is the witness I told you about, who's the homeless advocate. There's another witness whose judgment was that he was exercising too much force on the neck. But this isn't a game of 60-40 or 50-50. I don't know how you prosecute this case with those witnesses. Don't they create a reasonable doubt? He doesn't have to prove he's innocent. They have to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that he's guilty. Now, I was a prosecutor for a long, long time. I was a real one, not this bum who doesn't even prosecute his own cases because he's too stupid and too prejudiced. And this guy, if Penny were black and the guy was white, Penny would have gotten the Medal of Honor. The guy is a thoroughgoing, vicious racist, a terrible district attorney, responsible for numerous crimes in this city, people he lets out that beat the shit out of people, rape them and kill them. And he's prosecuting this guy that comes forward. And at most you can say is he made a mistake of judgment. I don't think he did. But mistakes of judgment are not crimes. My God, this guy lets people go bash the heads in of white old men. He's created, he's ruined the city that I work so hard to make safe. And he's a Soros bum. Put in there with out-of-state Soros dirty money. And because the voters of my city are so damn stupid, they voted for him. I'm sorry, my fellow New Yorkers or Manhattanites, you put him in. What are you, nuts? You want to get killed? Well, you do. And this kid comes along, and he does way back with the Genovese case. Way back. If you're a New Yorker, we were upset that New Yorkers didn't come forward to help people. This kid came along to help, and now you want to put him in jail for 20 or 30 years. It's like the way you took my law license. Boy, it is a democratic, racist dictatorship in New York. And that's why you see behind me Palm Beach, because DeSantis runs an American state, not one that makes some parts of the Soviet Union look not so bad. Judges appointed by hack politicians. who make judgments like they make, including in Trump's cases, in my case. And now this. This kid should, if this kid had done this when I was mayor, he'd have been at City Hall the next day, and I'd have given him a medal. And I had the people there who were sensible enough to applaud what he did, rather than the left-wing jackasses that have ruined New York City. Why the hell do you think it's the city people flee the most? The city that invited 200 million illegals so Adams could get contracts for big money where you didn't have to bid. I mean, you don't think I have it all figured out? I hope and I pray to God that the jury, he may have a chance, Mr. Penny. Forever, his lawyer, Mr. Kniff, is excellent. And if I say you're excellent, you're excellent. Two, this isn't really, it is a racist case, but most people in New York City are not racist. And black people in New York City are not racist. Bragg is. Black people in New York City are perfectly able to be fair. I mean, I remember in the cops who shot 41 times, 5 blacks found them not guilty. I mean, that was in Albany, but a jury of 5 blacks and the rest were white. There's a chance they will find him not guilty. The judge really should dismiss the case for failure to present prima facie evidence beyond a reasonable doubt. When you have he said, she said, which is basically what you have here, some witnesses say he was justified, some say he wasn't. You got at best a civil case, maybe not even a preponderance of the evidence. Looks to me like you're at best at 50-50. Case goes, boom, dismissed by an honest judge. Judge doesn't seem to be an honest judge. Well, they're not, because they're not appointed honestly. They're appointed by a 150-year-old absolutely corrupt system, which is why there's so much corruption on the New York courts, because the initial appointment system is completely corrupt. It's the reason why Judge Engelmoron has run 3 times, but never with an opponent. It's the reason why Judge Merchan has never run. They've been slipping him by for 19 years so he can fix cases. And his daughter can make $1 million or so from the Harris Biden campaign. Imagine if a Republican judge, the daughter made $1 million from the Trump campaign and the judge had acquitted Trump. Ain't no justice. We'll take a short break and we'll be right back.
To celebrate the new year, we're having the biggest sale ever on overstock clearance and brand new products. For example, save 60% on our Goose Down comforters, the best comforters ever. They go perfectly with our MyPillow bed sheets and duvet covers. Save 25% on our brand new kitchen towels. They're made with the same technology as our famous My Towels. Our initial quantities are extremely low, so get them now before they go. Our seasonal flannel sheets are finally in. You save up to 50% and they sell out fast every year, so order now. They're truly the best flannel sheets you'll ever sleep on. Or save up to 80% on all our clearance items. And this is where it gets even better. For a limited time, your entire order ships absolutely free. So go to MyPillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use that promo code to get deep discounts on all MyPillow products. And for a limited time, your order ships
Then move it. This is Rudy Giuliani, and you're back with America's Mayor Live. And we're live from Palm Beach, Florida. You know, yesterday was Veterans Day, and I do hope you took my advice and you made your contribution to Tunnels to Towers. But just in case you didn't, I want to tell you a story that hopefully will motivate you to do it now. U.S. Navy Lieutenant Bradley Allen Forster's story is one of valor and selflessness. Lieutenant Forster was born and raised in California, and Bradley, inspired by his father's service, felt a deep calling to serve his country, and he became a pilot in the United States Navy. Bradley underwent air and combat training and was later awarded the National Defense Service Medal. Bradley's goal was to be the best pilot and leader he could be, while also being the very best husband and father to his wife, Beth, and their beautiful baby girl, Audrey. Tragically, Bradley's promising life was cut short by a helicopter crash off the coast of San Diego, California. Tunnel to Towers provided his family with a mortgage-free home in his honor. Bradley's death is a stark reminder that freedom isn't free. It comes at a steep price. Sometimes the ultimate price for heroes who serve our country and our communities. Come on, show your support for heroes like Bradley and their families. Donate $11 a month to Tunnel to Towers at T2T.org. That's T, the number 2T.org, and do it now. Well, there are going to be a lot of changes, aren't there, in what's going on? I would say the biggest has to be for the state of Israel. They finally have an American president that is like an American president, supports Israel, doesn't double-cross him, doesn't knife him in the back, and doesn't sell him out for votes in Dearborn that they never got. It shows they're not only people without honor, they're stupid. Told you that. So Bibi has already gotten rid of his quisling defense minister, who was ratting him out to the Biden enemy. So he's got now a much better and much more loyal staff. On Sunday already, they took out one of the Hezbollah terror bosses, Ali Musa Dakduk. Seriously, that's his name, Dakduk. D-A-Q. I don't know. Maybe it has some other pronunciation. But they took him out in Syria. Now, this was a favor to the U.S. because they have the guts to do what Biden, Harris, and the Communist Democrats don't. This guy killed an American soldier in Karbala, Iraq, in 2007. And he kidnapped him and he executed him, an American. Of course, we never did anything about it. We never used this opportunity to take him out because Biden doesn't give a shit about Americans that are killed. He's shown that over and over. I guess the best picture, I think it should be his presidential picture with the caskets coming out and him looking at his watch. That would capture the Joe Biden who's never seen his granddaughter, the Joe Biden who took his drug-addicted son and made him a 30-year bagman. The Joe Biden that is the reason why hundreds of thousands are killed in Ukraine who never would have died if Donald Trump had been the president. Israeli forces have just been going on and on, taking care of these scores for us, which, is good, but it says to the Ayatollah, boy, what a weak country we are. The way Clinton, when an American ship was attacked as an act of war by Al Qaeda, Clinton found an empty field to bomb. You don't think that encouraged bin Laden to come and blast the shit out of us, thinking we're a paper tiger? He found out he was dealing with Bush, not Clinton, which was a big shock to him. And then he ran off and stayed in a mountain for years. seem to be anxious to die in the name of Allah, huh? Didn't seem too anxious to go up and get the 72 virgins or 79 or whatever number. Maybe he knows that it's a crock of.
Well, Mayor, this just in, a new pick from President Trump. He has named Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy both to lead what he's calling the Department of Government Efficiency.
Well, I mean, I usually am opposed to new government departments, but a department of efficiency is probably going to be very small, and it's going to have. Hopefully, it'll make gigantic returns in cutting half the government. I mean, I would be impressed with them if they cut about half the government. You really think that most of these agencies we have do anything other than what the vested interests want done, and offer an opportunity for massive corruption? I mean, K Street would be a prosecutor's dream if anybody had the guts to really go into the deep state. So let's hope. My approach, and I borrowed it from Reagan to cutting government, was I just tell you, you had to cut 10%, you had to cut 20%. And if you couldn't do it, I'd come in and I'd cut it. And I'd even do it if I had to by doing eeny, meeny, miny, mo. And then you have to deal with it, because I have to have a balanced budget. I'm not going to rob the money of my people for useless services. Look, I'm sitting here in Florida. The services here, Ted has lived now a couple of years in New York, on and off in Florida, and a year or so in Florida. I guess the accumulation of time, you're about a year and a half in Florida,
Yeah.
2.5 years in New York.
Yeah, I would say so.
Comparative time, right?
Yeah.
Going back and forth. Would you say there's any, do you feel any less services in Florida than in New York? Do you feel
Not at all.
Do you feel the government here in Florida run on the cheap?
I wouldn't say it's run on the cheap, but it's run well.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. No, they're not cutting corners.
So how could it be that it costs twice as much to run New York, that has 3 million less people? New York is about, this is about 100 billion, 105 billion. New York's about 230 billion. This place has about 21 million people. New York has, and growing, and New York has about 18, 19 and declining. How could it possibly cost more than twice as much to run New York unless they are producing massive contracts for kickbacks? And for me to say that when I was a kid leaving the Ford administration, I kidded around with one. I said, make me the U.S. attorney in Albany, and I bet I can indict half the legislature. And the guy I was talking to, who was a very experienced New York prosecutor, said, and if you did, you'd be a goddamn failure, because you should prosecute all of them. I mean, it's just well known that New York is crooked. More crooked than other places. It's more crooked than California. I mean, remember, she paid twice as much. Hochul paid twice as much for the COVID test as Newboy. What's his name? I failed. Newboy, Newberry, Newpoop. Oh, New Sam. That's it. Governor Newsom. Oh, Newsom. Oh, that's his name.
We haven't heard from him in a minute.
He's the one that gets you arrested if you ask for an ID, right? If you ask for an identification, you go to San Quentin. Did you know that? Sentences there, and if you're a pedophile, you get suspended sentence.
Wow.
Well, I think I'm exaggerating, but they reduced the sentences for pedophiles because
That's
they don't want to be too harsh on pedophiles. I wonder what lobby.
I have some questions for anyone pushing for that.
I mean, could you ever see yourself voting for reducing the penalty?
Out of everything you could be focused on, out of everything you could champion, any cause, anything, why that?
I don't know. There are an awful lot of Epstein names that have never come out. That guy was supposed to have a slew of names, and the only one we've gotten so far are the 27 trips by Billy Clinton. And I never saw any young girls on the plane. They must have they must have been in the cargo planes. Those young girls.
Crazy.
I just saw big girls. You know, I like big girls.
Nuts. This just in, President Trump selects Fox News host and Army veteran Pete Hegseth to lead up the Department of Defense. He has selected Pete Hegseth as Secretary of Defense. He is a veteran of the U.S. Army.
Wow. Wow. That's a shocker.
That is a bit. And so Pete Hegseth.
You were going to say communications director or something like that. I didn't think you were going to say, I have to look at his credentials. That's a hell of a job. I mean, that's one of the most complicated jobs in the world.
That's right.
The number one position constitutionally is Secretary of State. But you could argue that defense is more complex job, more difficult job.
Of course, Pete Hegseth, a longtime ally, you could say, of President Trump on Fox and Friends. He's written a few books. He's been very critical of the Biden administration and their foreign policy. And it does appear that the president is very much valuing loyalty and demonstrated loyalty above maybe some other considerations. He is an Army veteran and somebody who, again, I've had a chance to hear him speak at numerous occasions, not on TV, but in person. And I will say, very impressed with his kind of grasp of some of these issues, right? For his age, young man, Mayor, compared to you, right? This is a kid. Before his age, I think you would be comforted by his.
I will tell you, because
the way he speaks.
I'm transparent and honest. You got to convince me on this one. I can't just run off like that. What would qualify him for this? I don't know what he's ever run before. I mean, running an Army unit is not going to qualify it. This is like running one of the most complicated and difficult organizations in the world at a time of great stress, at a time when we're way behind China and we need to rebuild. And at a time in which you want to convince the world that you are deadly serious about your defense. So I'm a little shocked. I'm a little shocked at the appointment. And on the loyalty front, I got to think a little about that.
So that's it, folks. You're getting live reaction here as these picks are made. Kind of feels a little bit like the NFL draft.
It's been vetted a little more.
Pete Hegseth, Defense Secretary. This breaking, of course, we heard this last night.
Guy, I mean, he's a terrific guy. Secretary of Defense, however, there are a couple more things other than nice guy.
Kristi Noem, this is now official, will be named the president's Homeland Security Secretary. So the Secretary of the Department of Homeland Security, Kristi Noem, that now official.
Well, that's a good appointment. That's someone who has executive experience. That could be easily. I mean, the Homeland Security is a very hard job to define. Uh, 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 for example, General Kelly, before he blew up as chief of staff, was an excellent head. The first choice that he made for Homeland Security. I had only wished that he remained as head of Homeland Security. But then when he went to chief of staff, the control factor took over, and just totally inconsistent with a chief of staff. I think that uh, his later chiefs of staff were better suited for the job. Also, sometimes it's a terrible mistake when somebody's doing a good job to change them. I remember when the presidents switched Baker and Don Regan. And Don Regan had been really quite a good Secretary of the Treasury, and Baker had been excellent as a co-chief of staff with Ed Meese, and well, they really were the two. And then Don Regan turned out to be really a problem as a chief of staff. He had been the head of a financial firm, and he acted like he was the boss. I think Mrs. Reagan eventually fired him because President Reagan found it difficult to fire people. But it's an interesting choice, and we've got to keep an open mind about it. I just have to tell you, the others I can run. I can see the things that fit, and this is one where this is one I don't see them right on the top, right off the top. And given the Fox situation and things that I happen to know, I wonder. Well, we'll take a short break and we'll be right back. I'm going to tell you what it is. Here we are, pretty much at the beginning of the process here at this pristine, I call it a laboratory. It's not like a factory, it's like a hospital. This is the beginning of the process for roasting. Deep grain, very good quality. Most people don't use this quality. We deal with small farmers because we like to know who we're dealing with. They give us the highest quality, all organic, non-GMO. You should know all Arabica beans. No Robusto, all Arabica. They're going to go into the roaster and it'll get roasted for about 20 minutes or so. Oh my goodness, look at these. My goodness. You're going to want to specially order these. This is what goes into Rudy's coffee. Hey, I'm Rudy Giuliani, and we're back with America's Mayor Live.
We have another pick in Mayor. This
boy.
one for White House Counsel, Bill McGinley.
Don't know Bill all that well, but that's a choice that the president, that's not one that people can second guess. That's a choice the president has to make and be comfortable with. And I'm sure that'll be an excellent choice. I'm not sure it's even Senate confirmed. I doubt it. Chief of staff is not. And shouldn't be. I mean, the Senate's got nothing to do with the president as chief of staff. That's a personal appointment. Also, National Security Advisor. Well, wait. The National Security Advisor may be Senate confirmed. But Border Czar, for example, Tom's position is not confirmed. Most of them that have been named are confirmed, but not the chief of staff, not the chief of policy, Stephen Miller, and not the Border Czar. Let's look up if the National Security Advisor is confirmed. That is the only one I'm not really sure of.
Which one?
National Security Advisor.
Michael Waltz.
Yeah.
And of course,
Earlier today, they had announced that Kash Patel was going to run CIA. That would have been a very good choice, also. I mean, Radcliffe's a very good choice. No reservations about Radcliffe. But Kash and Radcliffe, has the experience already and did an excellent job. But Kash would have been. Cash would have been a young guy with all the requisite experience and the willingness to kick the living daylights out of that place and straighten it out. Radcliffe too, by the way.
Yeah.
I think Radcliffe is a very, very straight, tough guy. Radcliffe, of course, I'll always be eternally grateful because when Trump and I were accused of being of peddling Russian disinformation with the hard drive, he came forward and said that hard drive had nothing to do with Russia, which, by the way, the FBI knew for 9 months and didn't come forward and agree with Radcliffe, nor did Bill Barr, who knew it. They just kept their mouths shut so that the lie could be perpetrated and the fraud carried out on the American people. And the 51 intelligence liars could defraud the American people. Radcliffe was the one who stood up. Now, of course, they sort of attacked him as being a Trump whatever, but he was the one who had the courage to tell the truth. Whereas Barr and Ray, he better be out of there the day Trump gets in. I mean, his actions and his cover-ups, including this totally incompetent investigation of the attempted assassination of the president by an organization that has attempted to frame him several times, is a monstrosity. So I think you're going to see the Middle East. I think you're going to see a lot of things change. Gaza is already, the Hamas is already talking with Fatah to come up with some kind of plan. But you see, here's the problem. The plan is going to have to include Hamas eliminating itself, which is a little hard. And it would be a foolhardy plan if it didn't put a lot of steps in the way of statehood that have to be reached in the way that the EU or NATO or puts in front of these countries that want to become members, but they're corrupt countries. I mean, they got to straighten themselves out. I'm going to tell you that proposal that you hear right now, that Palestine should be given 10 years to prove that it can eliminate terrorism. That's a proposal I made 22 years ago, and was a bitter critic from the minute Clinton started with the two-state solution. And I've always thought that has tragically delayed peace, because all you need is just a little logic to realize it's a corrupt solution that will never reach fruition. You cannot have two states when one of the states is dedicated to the eradication of the other state and then takes on an ally that's even more dedicated, Iran. So Palestine, and this is Palestine, not just Hamas. Palestine is an ally of Iran. Iran's number one goal in the world is to eliminate, one, Israel, the Jewish people, and Americans. And they've eliminated a lot of Americans with our money. And Palestine is now one of their vassals, one of their pawns, like Hezbollah and Hamas, and part of their kind of bastard empire. So it would seem to me you could have peace if Hamas were broken up completely, if there were a period of time of Israel having the ability to patrol Gaza and trust but inspect, and that period of time be at least 10 years, and there not be given statehood of any kind until it is absolutely beyond peradventure of a doubt that we're not going to create another terrorist state. What good does it do us to create a terrorist state, irrespective of Israel? It has now been reported that, well, I don't know how true this is. I guess it's a leak, that Israel, as part of their attack on Iran, which didn't seem as damaging as it could be, exposed every single one of their nuclear sites. So the idea that we don't know where they are and we can't take them out is now a thing of the past. Oh, you knew, come on. Remember when Mossad did away with all the scientists in about 4 weeks? Well, they say they didn't. And our people who get us the most valuable information inside Iran say they had nothing to do with it either. And every time I look at them, including Bibi, I don't even ask anymore. It's like asking Israel, "Do you have nuclear weapons?" They don't even say no anymore. They just it's a different thing about transparency than when we have. But I mean, the Palestinians are sitting down. They're suggesting that Palestine be run by an apolitical committee of Palestinians. I don't know who the hell that is, since every Palestinian is trained as a child to kill you. Is it a group that's been through re-education to not hate us and want to kill us? No. Israel has to have the ability to inspect for a long period of time before they get admitted and we create another terrorist state, an ally of Iran. In fact, it should be working the other way. We should be working on plans to take apart the Iranian nuclear facilities now that Israel knows exactly where they all are. And I think demonstrated, particularly even with that first attack, that they can reach them. Ukraine and North Korea are working together now on plans to do further damage to Ukraine. But it looks like the North Koreans, who haven't been in a war in a long time, realize that war means you get killed. And they're having a few problems with it. No, I guess Fat Boy didn't tell him he wasn't going. He was going to send them because he'd be too big of a bigger target. I think Trump should call him up and tell him he's going to slap him around if he continues to send troops to Ukraine. He might agree not to. I won't visit you ever again, Fat Boy. But right now, he's supplied troops to the Russians, and the Russians don't know what to do with them. That's funny because I'm sure they're killing some people even by accident. And they're using them in Kherson, which is a place they want to hold. And it allowed Putin to take 10,000 troops back. So he must be getting a lot of pressure at home. I mean, obviously, in a country like North Korea, it's impossible to judge internal opinion because the people don't know anything. They are completely cut off. It's unlike any other country in the world, even China. You can get information into China. You can get information pretty freely into Russia. I participate in getting information pretty freely into Iran. North Korea, I don't even know if they know what year it is. The soldiers that are in Ukraine, it's the first time they've been outside of North Korea in their lives. It's the first time they've interacted with other people, like interacting with the Russians. They don't speak Russian. They at the highest levels of the North Korean government, they will meet with Russians and South Koreans and with Americans. But at the soldier citizen level, it's nothing like, certainly nothing like America, but it's nothing like our other enemies or our other adversaries who are shut. I mean, yeah, Iran is shut down and Palestine is shut down. And to a large extent, China is shut down and Russia is shut down. But it's relatively shut down. Enterprising technology can get you in there, and not even that terribly sophisticated. They just don't have anything. I think they have one television station. If I recall correctly, when I met with the head of Samsung, he told me they make a special television for North Korea. And I don't know why the hell they do this, but they do it. It's only able to get one channel. Nobody knows how to make this TV anymore, but they know how to make it because it's a big sell. It's the only one they sell. It has one channel. You probably have 1,220, right? And in the other parts of the world, they don't maybe have as many, but there are devices that have multiple channels, and you can access them if you know what you're doing. But Korea's got one. I think it's still the case that they have one channel. I was there 20 years ago. I don't know that it's changed. I doubt it. Why would he want to have more channels? So their level of information is basically non-existent. So there's a real war against Christmas. And I can see the dirty hand here of Saks. So we reported last week that Neiman Marcus, for the first time in its history, was not going to have a Christmas album, a Christmas book from which you can order $50,000 things and stuff like that. They called it Neiman Fantasy. Because nobody on December 25th, we're not going to be celebrating, you and me, Neiman Fantasy. I hope not. Now, even a bigger shocker, Saks, Fifth Avenue, which is right across the street from the Rockefeller Center Christmas tree, and also right across the street from St. Patrick's Cathedral, which for years has had beautiful Christmas windows that were lit up and songs were played. And there were periods of time when you could go around it, and they would be in competition with Macy's and with Bloomingdale's and with others for the best windows. I think last year on our show, we took pictures of it. Remember, Ted?
That's right.
And we showed the pictures and had people call in or write in and tell us which ones they like better. No Christmas windows for Saks this year. They're going to show architecture. I guess December 25th is an architectural holiday. So I would say the following: no Christmas windows, no Christmas shopping. Hey, will you support me? No Christmas windows, no Christmas shopping. Now, I see a dirty hand in this. Saks is acquiring Neiman Marcus for next year. In fact, when Neiman did it, one of the speculations was, well, how's Saks going to react to it? Because they have beautiful Christmas windows. Well, they're about to trash Christmas too. So the whole new big Saks and Neiman Marcus is going to trash Christmas. But they're still going to try to collect a lot of money for, it isn't going to be Saks architecture holiday or Neiman's fantasy holiday. They collect the money off Jesus Christ. They have a right to do it, right? You have a right not to shop there. Why don't you have some gumption, huh? Why don't we stand up for what we believe in? I think we believe in the fact that you should be able to celebrate Christmas. After all, other people are allowed to celebrate their holidays in the way they want to. Why should Christians be prejudiced against? I mean, it just goes back to when I got in trouble with the atheistic, communist-leaning New York Times for taking away the funding from the Brooklyn Museum. You know, Soros's ex-wife was on that board, big atheist. And when they put out an art display defiling the Blessed Mother by having cow dung, actual cow dung, on her image, and I think her image, I never looked at it, but her image was nude. They also had some terrible ones of Jesus, and you know, it came right after the Chicago Museum had a display defiling Muhammad, and the Chicago Museum took it down right away when the Muslims complained. So I asked the Brooklyn Museum, to which New York City contributes 12 million. I thought it was 12 million a year. And they said they wouldn't do it. I said, well, you know, consistent with what Chicago did, no, free speech. Well, I mean, free speech is they have a right privately to do it. I mean, a year earlier, they had something called Piss Christ in one of the disgusting private museums we have in New York. And I had the unenviable task of having my police department protect it. Because in a private museum, the First Amendment means you've got a right to do it. But you don't have a right to take the taxpayers' money for a desecration of a religion that's practiced by well over half of your citizens and to whom it's a great insult. Gosh, Muslims don't even make half of your citizens. And you do anything about Muhammad and they go nuts. So I took the 12 million away. I eventually lost in court with the communist system, Democrat dictatorship court system in New York, where you should make a distinction between public and private money. I think if I had been before a real court, I would have won. But I made my point. Christianity is just wide open for attack, and Christians really don't stand together the way Muslims do to defend themselves. Jewish people do somewhat more, but not the way Muslims do, because there've been an awful lot of attacks on Jews, particularly recently, and there's been a strong reaction on the part of the Jewish community. But where the hell is Chuck E. Cheese been? He's been hiding. I think Joe Biden has made his basement available to him. And where are the Democrat Jewish members of Congress to condemn the squad, who are violent, vicious Jew haters? Or Colombia, or the president of Colombia. Chuck E. Cheese was conspiring with her to help her. So, I mean, it's the Muslims that really stay, and we're afraid of them. We're going to have a demonstration. Oh, we'll take the exhibit down. Whereas if it's Christian, you're required to put 12 million bucks in, even though it offends you to the core. And now we just shouldn't sit by and let them desecrate Christmas. We really shouldn't. We do not have to. We do not have to make a Christmas acceptable to everybody. The Muslims don't make Ramadan acceptable to everybody. In fact, they seem to do a high degree of killing during Ramadan. Every time there's Ramadan, they're in the, well, there's going to be the beginning of Ramadan. The other, better watch out. There're going to be a lot of attacks. So it doesn't seem to me they're accommodating Ramadan to the rest of the community. They just go practice it. We don't Christmas time going around attacking anybody. Nor do the Jews go around attacking anybody on the high holy days. They get attacked, but they don't attack anybody. And what about the pogrom in Amsterdam? That's gotten very little attention, huh? I mean, not that we can say much about it. We had a pogrom in Brooklyn under David Dinkins and Al Sharpton, the great commentator on MSNBC, who incited a pogrom. And for 3 straight nights, black people were encouraged to go out and beat the hell out of Jewish people or kill them. And David Dinkins didn't have the guts to stop it, and Sharpton kept telling him, one more cooling off period. The large part of probably had to do with how I defeated him, because Governor Cuomo put out a report condemning what Dinkins did and laying out a very group of helpful rules that somebody should actually look at for how to prevent a riot. But, these people don't read. Read. See, you stayed on. If this were a left-wing program, if I said read, I'd have no audience. Why do you think all the best-selling books are right-wing books? They don't read. They're just inherently brilliant, and you're garbage. Do you ever think we're a lot smarter than they are? We certainly are a lot better educated. They don't know things like Israel hasn't occupied Gaza since 2005. They go around complaining about the Israeli occupation of Gaza. I bet they wouldn't know what the Balfour Declaration is. We should have a test of the left-wing yahoos.
Yeah.
Well, we'll be right back. We'll take a short break, and I'm going to get rid of this cough.
To celebrate the new year, we're having the biggest sale ever on overstock clearance and brand new products. For example, save 60% on our Goose Down comforters, the best comforters ever. They go perfectly with our MyPillow bed sheets and duvet covers. Save 25% on our brand new kitchen towels. They're made with the same technology as our famous My Towels. Our initial quantities are extremely low, so get them now before they go. Our seasonal flannel sheets are finally in. You save up to 50%, and they sell out fast every year, so order now. They're truly the best flannel sheets you'll ever sleep on. Or save up to 80% on all our clearance items. And this is where it gets even better. For a limited time, your entire order ships absolutely free. So go to MyPillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use that promo code to get deep discounts on all MyPillow products. And for a limited time, your order ships absolutely.
Cancel culture is the new normal. Online freedom, as we know it, has ended. Digital stockades are here. All activity is monitored, stored, and predictively analyzed by a technological cartel. We're being converted into a digital resource, a digital currency to be farmed for metadata and loaded into a computerized combine, blockchained to a social engineering operating system. However, it doesn't have to be this way. Be part of a new technological revolution. Right now, 1,000 test pilots have launched themselves into a new digital frontier. A private network outside the big tech control. New technology with state-of-the-art digital engagement and never-done-before security and privacy features that are now operational. With Quick's digital engagement, entertainment, communication, and commercial exchange will never be the same. We are QUX. Quicks. Advanced pre-release sales are limited to 3,000. Order now by visiting quicks.tv. Get yours now before they sell out. Be part of a brand new online experience that you control.
Here we are, pretty much at the beginning of the process here at this pristine, I call it a laboratory. It's not like a factory, it's like a hospital. This is the beginning of the process for roasting. deep grain, very good quality. Most people don't use this quality. We deal with small farmers because they like to know who we're dealing with. They give us the highest quality, all organic, non-GMO. You should know all Arabica beans, no Robusto, all Arabica. They're going to go into the roaster, and it'll get roasted for about 20 minutes or so. Oh my goodness, look at these. My goodness. You're going to want to specially order these. This is what goes into Rudy's coffee.
We're back.
This is Rudy Giuliani, and we are back with America's Mayor Live. Just want to show you a moon that will appear tonight, and it'll appear, and it appeared last night, and it's a little bigger than the usual moon. Now, the reason for it is not that the moon got bigger; the moon stayed the same, right? The reason for it is that the moon is closer to the Earth. It's somewhat closer to the Earth, a little closer last night and even closer tonight. And if you get a chance to look at it, I don't know what the weather is like here, Ted. Maybe later we'll see if we can see it and take a picture of it. But that's kind of interesting. So that's on the interesting side. On the very frightening side is that during the cleanup after, I think in this case it was Hurricane Helene, well, it could have happened to the others. A FEMA worker named Marnie Washington told other FEMA workers to not help the houses that had Trump or MAGA or Republican signs, of which there were quite a few. And even I mean, Marnie Washington obviously should be fired, and I don't know what else, but certainly fired. She was a FEMA supervisor. But the people who carried out the orders should be fired too. I mean, this is like the Nazi prison guards, isn't it? I mean, what? There could be people dying in there. And because they have a magazine, you don't go in? And you don't think that Trump derangement syndrome was a mental illness? I do. I really do. I think if you were an honest psychiatrist and willing to really use your knowledge in an intellectually honest way, you would say that we've had some crazy things in American politics and on both sides and strange phenomenon, but this has to be the worst. We've never had anything like this before. I mean, to say that the man is Hitler, that's pretty crazy, right? Particularly since he was in office and he wasn't Hitler. And your guy was closer to Hitler. He's going to prosecute his enemies. No, your guy did prosecute his enemies, like me. It's a sickness. But this Marnie Washington has it to the point where she's willing to risk human life in defense of her principle, which is that Trump people don't have a right to live.
Crazy.
I mean, she buys the garbage, the Biden garbage comment 100%, or the Hillary comments, right? Basket of deplorables, or the Harris comment that we're Nazis. I mean, and this is not isolated, my friends. This is the deep state. Like, it's all here, and it's just you're getting a little taste of it. I've seen the whole thing. It's like Dante's Inferno. You get a little peeked. Somebody puts a little head up, except in representing Donald Trump and in going through what I went through. I've seen the whole thing. We better straighten it out. And he's making a good start, and he's got a lot of really courageous people around him who didn't waver. A lot of Republicans wavered. I'm willing to accept them back. Of course, people make mistakes. But when you waver once like that, it does legitimately raise the question. If they build up the propaganda and brainwashing machine again, you're going to go double cross them. Why not? You did it before. And that's why I think it's important to have people that had the strength of character to remain loyal and had the intellectual ability to see through the communist-inspired propaganda that now pervades our country. They're not all communists, and they don't all even know that that's what they're doing because they're not that literate and they're not that educated, and they haven't read Marx and they haven't read Engels and they haven't read Gramsci. But they're doing what they told them to do, almost exactly in the order in which they were told to do it. I mean, you got words coming out from them that are giveaways, like the original Obama, who was trained by communists, statement that we cling to guns and we cling to God. That's a hell of a way of describing a religious belief in God. It shows like great respect, even if you might be an atheist or a Muslim or whoever the hell you are, or a follower of that goddamn the United States guy. But I mean, you got to respect people who have, an American respects people who have different religious beliefs. You don't say cling to God if you respect people who have different religious beliefs. You're equating it to guns and racism. Now, who had the big thing with getting rid of God, Prince Obama? The guy whose works you studied so assiduously, Karl Marx. It slips in. You can see that they were trained that way, trained in the language of Marxism, and in the practices of Marxism, like projection, which is you accuse your enemy of what you do, so that when you're accused of it, they're already accused of it. Remember the quid pro quo, quid pro quo, quid pro. I don't even know what quid pro quo means. Most of them can't pronounce my name, which means they never studied Latin. If you studied Latin, my name's a breeze. Because in the second year that you studied Latin, you read The Gaelic Wars by Giulio Cesare. So you know my name is not Giuliani, you know it's Giuliani. Because it's Giulio Cesare. My first part of my name is Giulio, Giuli, except in the case of Caesar, it's Giulio, Cesare. And if you had that book for a whole year like I did, you never forget. So I know people are schooled in Latin when they pronounce my name right. When they pronounce it wrong, I know that they're just not all that well educated. Well, not really. Not everybody has to learn Latin. And I don't really get as upset as Kamala did, or Carmela, or Kamula, about the pronunciation of my name. I realize it's a difficult name to pronounce. But then when you try to act like you're intellectually superior and you can't pronounce my name, then I know you're a phony. I know you're not really well educated in the humanities. Well, this has been a problem for 50 years of false intellectual superiority. The smartest people in our country are the ones who picked up just what scumbags this democratic leadership is, and picked it up, and the early picked it up the smarter you are. Even the people who had the wool pulled over their eyes in 2020, it's the ones who didn't that really are sharp. And it's hard because the media is relentless. Even now, they're relentless. It's absolutely hilarious to listen to them examine what went wrong in the election. And so many of them, you just say to yourself, okay, just go repeat the same mistakes. Now, every once in a while, you got a couple come forward that say, we went too far to the left. We certainly shouldn't have attacked his voters. There were a couple of commentaries that, were quite good by Democrats. But somehow I don't think they're going to win the day. I don't. What do you think, Ted? One of the senators, not the one who lied about the Vietnam War, but the other guy in Connecticut basically said, we just screwed up. We went too far to the left. Was it Murphy or I forgot?
It's
well, so he's right.
He's absolutely right, and they're feeling the effects.
Rachel Madcow doesn't think that. They should probably.
MSNBC,
she probably thinks they didn't go left in her.
They lost half their ratings. Election, literally. I thought that was like hyperbole. Literally, in some cases, 52%.
Oh yeah, I have a little chart here.
I have the chart too.
You have the chart too? Yeah, show them. They're getting their ass kicked in.
So I'll bring that up here in a second.
Yeah, they're getting whacked. They're getting whacked around.
They're getting smoked in the ratings.
Do you know I've never watched a full Madcow show?
Did you know that she's been off the air for a while? Like she doesn't do her show anymore, does she?
Well, how come I see her? I mean, I see her,
Special
like on there are. I see her sometimes. There's a YouTube thing with her.
She'll show up, right? She pops up once in a while.
There wasn't a time where she had a show. She's like making a couple $1 million. She had a show once a week.
Yeah, she was a big deal.
But once a week.
I guess it's a big deal once a week.
Why don't they have her on every night if they want ratings? I mean, she does get ratings.
I think, yeah, that's a good question.
She's the only one. I mean, she doesn't get ratings as good as Fox, but she's the only one that will occasionally contest them, right?
That's right.
And but you would think if you had such a person, right? It's like if you got Otani.
Yeah.
You don't sit him on a bench and play him once a week. The guy gets runs for you. This lady gets ratings, and they're desperate for ratings.
So I think.
Do you have it? You have the chart?
Yep, I do. We're bringing it up here. It just takes a second to. I gotta upload.
I'm looking for it too, but it's buried some here in all my papers.
And so we're gonna bring this up here, folks. We got it, Mayor.
You got it? Yeah, there. I see it. I just saw it.
Want to. Here it is. Down with us. Come on. We just had, so bear with us, folks. I'm bringing it up here. Oh, that's videos. I can't bring it up in video. Let's actually go right here. Just an internal back and forth here. I got to get this up. So this is what you're about to see is a screenshot.
Where do we get it from? Newsmax or Fox? I think Newsmax.
From Newsmax.
Okay, so Morning Joe is down almost 40%. Since when? 10:30 to 11:08. Oh, right during the election period.
Yeah. Joy Reid has lost over half of her viewers. Gee, I wonder why. Why could we?
I don't even know who Ari Melber is. Who's Ari Melber?
You're the second person to say that today. Nobody knows who he is. I love that. I love that you guys don't know.
I didn't know who Joy Reid was until a few weeks ago.
I only know her because of her like most outlandish comments, and I can't tell.
Is that her?
Like, is this like a game? Here's Joy Reid. Let's play. Joy Reid was
Why
lost.
is she coming out of her mind? Joy Reid.
Biggest flag. I want to
Complete
put it
racist.
in. And there is a huge element.
Everything is racial.
To be honest, of anti-blackness in a lot of this. Anti-black Americanness specifically.
Didn't they blame
And
Hispanics?
Paula and I have talked about this, that there is
I'm playing right now.
And didn't they say
that
that basically all
anti-blackness
Hispanics are
is a piece
racist?
of it. Even though Enrique
That,
Tarrio, who's the
Hispanics
head of the
hate
Proud Boys,
now, yeah.
is a
Did you know
black
if you're
Latino,
Hispanic,
but
you
he's
hate blacks?
down with
I'm
white
white. I hate
supremacists.
blacks.
Down with them. And there's this
Face it.
idea that I'm
I
black,
think
but
I
I'm not
love
black.
blacks more
I
than they
may
do.
look black to you.
You have your
I may be
headset?
black if I'm walking through
I
Bloomingdale's
don't.
and get followed around.
be right there.
But in
Just
my
tell me what
mind,
she's
I'm
saying.
identifying with
I
whiteness
can't
because
imagine this
whiteness
particularly
means
articulate.
privilege, and it means not
I've
being a
seen
black
her. I know she's
American.
not articulate.
This has to be unpacked because this
You also know
shift
she's a
among
vicious
Latino
racist.
men is significant, and it says something
Basically,
about
what
where
is
we're
she
going in this
saying, Tess?
country, about whether we can
Basically,
create
Latino
an appeal.
men are
Also, the
racist
last
and
thing I wanna throw
misogynist
in
and won't
is
support a black woman for
the
president.
creation of the idea that everything that Vice President Harris was
A
proposing
lot
is
of black men are
communism.
misogynist
Is
too.
communism.
They voted for Trump. Look at those Latinos. They really, terrible, bad Latinos. You know, they prefer when Trump did his little test, the group. Now, this may have been, I don't know which Hispanic, where it was it in Florida or some other, they preferred Hispanic. They preferred Hispanic. You got to, at some point, you got to show me a picture of Ari Melber. So if I see him on the street, I avoid him because it could get, could get ugly. No,
Yeah.
no, I've become a
Not-
very good boy. You know I'm very much in control of myself.
Of course.
More than you and Dr. Maria.
Oh, I'm always.
Oh, come
It's all
on.
design.
Yeah, by design.
It's strategic, Mayor.
Yeah, strategic. You should see him go crazy. Wow.
A couple of them are
Dr.
on
Maria,
research,
too.
But it's strategic. I would never. I'm not. I don't want you to think of me as a liability.
No, I make nasty comments. Like,
the public school system. I love your line about that's a product of a New York.
oh yeah, when they start saying "f you," I say that's a very, very.
By the way, very rare. Many more
There's a
often than
really,
bad
there's a
people
really,
come to the city.
a really broad vocabulary there. You must have gone to New York City public schools.
Well, wait till we're
I do.
back, Mayor, in legal terms, right?
Oh,
We're fighting back on a PR front and a legal front.
you mean against the
all this nonsense.
oh, right now, if you wanted me to make out a check to pay my bills, I can't do it because of Judge
Lyman.
Judge Lyman and the Biden people who are behind the case of the two women.
And say hello, because that law firm watches every show of ours.
Oh yeah, well, watch us.
Or some poor sap, some associate sitting there watching.
Well, you always watch us.
You could probably learn a thing or two.
Right now, you've tied up all of my bank accounts with restraining orders. You're trying to take every piece of property that I own, and you haven't even had the judgment affirmed on appeal. And come on, you got to admit it's a pretty questionable judgment at 145 million. You didn't have 145 million in damages. In fact, there's video of you doing what I said. We can play it for you if you want. You frame it. You had a judge who's bloodthirsty, January 6th sentencer, the biggest January 6th sentencer, who told the other judges they weren't giving strong enough sentences. She figured out a way to manipulate it, so I never got a trial on liability. I never got a trial on damages. You never proved damages, and you got 145 million. So I'm appealing it. You would think that they wouldn't be allowed to take all my property until the thing was affirmed on appeal. And I got a chance to show them that they never let me show the tapes that show them quadruple counting the ballots. Oh, they say the machine was blocked or but nobody comes to fix it. And anyway, when you look at it, I'm entitled to that interpretation. I mean, that's one of the things it looks like. Okay, I'm a lawyer. I put it in evidence, and I can ask you to interpret it that way. That's the way I interpret it. And then another one is they're passing these little hard drives that we maintain we use to fix the machines, right? And they say it was candy. Well, you look at it, it looks like a hard drive to me, and they told me it was a hard drive. And there's no proof that it was candy. And I'm a lawyer, and got to give my client the benefit of the doubt, or you disbar me. I mean, you disbarred me because I defended my client. I mean, it's a complete fix. And the guy bringing the case, Gottlieb, was a partner of Hunter Biden at the Boy Schiller law firm and represented the most crooked company in Ukraine that I uncovered, Burisma. And they made a fortune from Burisma, trying to cover up their criminality, their massive criminality, which is documented by the Obama State Department. And this guy decided to take on the case for free, like hell for free. And now they got some left-wing organization in there, pumping in millions of dollars to try to destroy me. No, it's not just me. This is part of how they have destroyed America. They're doing this to Professor Eastman, and they've, in a different way, have done it to my good friend Steve Bannon by putting him in jail. What an outrage that is! They put Pete Navarro in leg irons. They've disbarred Christina. They disbarred Christina. They took her law license away. Christina is a United States Marine, really? A lawyer, a reporter for OAN, and a person who volunteered, Christina volunteered to help us in what she thought was one of the great frauds of the century, which is particularly the theft in Arizona. Now, we had a right to think that. Now, I don't get all upset, but we were right. And we're going to be proven right by history. And kind of funny, like all those states that they stole all voted for Trump this time. And they were voting for Trump last time. It's like the world stopped on election night 2020 when the Democrat bosses in 5 crooked Democrat cities cut off the count. He was on his way to pretty much the same victory that he had. Actually not as big, but on his way to a pretty nice victory. At about 11 o'clock on election night 2020, when they cut counting with all kinds of ridiculous lies in crooked Democratic cities. They didn't do it all over. And because of the massive corrupt media here, just like they tried to paint me as a Russian agent, and they tried to destroy me for bringing out the original Biden criminality, that was one I couldn't overcome until now. You're going to find out I was telling the truth about the election, too. I was telling the truth about Russian collusion. Well, so was President Trump. I'm just talking about me now for a second. I was telling the truth about Russian collusion, right? I was telling the truth about there was no bribe of the president of Ukraine. It was actually Biden who did the bribe. I was telling the truth about the hard drive when Biden accused President Trump and me of being Russian pawns. And 17 months later, it was proven to be false. The straight out and out lie. And I told you that the election of 2020 was fixed. I will be proven correct about that also. In fact, the evidence is already there. They're just ignoring it. 300,000 plus ballots are missing in Georgia. What do you think those ballots are? Those are the ballots they never would show us because they were done in a factory 2 blocks away. Not made out like this, made out like that. The guy who got caught bringing hundreds thousand ballots or 50,000 ballots or 60,000 or whatever the number was into Pennsylvania and depositing them in a secret place in Pennsylvania, who had to recant his testimony because the FBI squeezed him, is now telling the truth about it, but nobody will listen to him. He's saying, yeah, they were fixed ballots and they were all for Biden.
That's it. Mayor.
Yes.
We'll have to show another time, but
what?
A close friend of ours brought a special gift, but I'll show you after the show.
You're not going to tell me what the gift is. You're going to keep
Well,
me.
we're going to keep you in suspense.
You're trying to get me.
Importantly, we want to keep the audience in suspense. So
You're trying to get me off the
here with
air.
them tomorrow night.
You know, they're trying to
We
get.
got today.
They're trying to get me off the air.
Oh no! Absolutely not. Tonight is not a night.
I pretty much have gotten out everything I
With all
want.
these picks coming in, though, I'm afraid we'll go off the air and he'll pick the next big thing. What do we have left here?
You know, I
Transportation.
tell you what. I have established a homestead in Florida, which is where I am now. And the New York judge wants to decide whether I have a homestead in Florida. Now, how the hell can a New York judge decide Florida law? Unless he wants to screw me. Now, if I tell you that the New York judge is a very committed activist Democrat. Now, he was appointed by President Trump, but don't get fooled. New York has got a strange thing where the senators made a deal quite some time ago that if there's a Republican and Democratic senator, three will be one party, one will be another. Well, this guy got appointed that way. But you look at this guy's background, it's pure activist Democrat, right?
Right.
And I was before him, and he was nice, and to some extent, he was cordial, but passive-aggressive cordial. He's already set down the trial date for Trump's inauguration. You don't have to tell me much more than that, Judge. I got you. He's very anxious to get all the discovery on my residence so he can supersede Florida deciding on whether I have a homestead here so I can protect at least this property that I have. So he wants to get involved in that so he can he can put in the first ruling on that. And I know how he's going to rule. He's ruled against me on everything. The law provides every person in the situation that I'm in, which is actually, if I didn't have the $145 million judgment, I would be perfectly okay. I've got a very enviable net worth, which I'm almost, I'm very thankful for. Thank you, God. But I also work very hard. I didn't take money from China, and I didn't take money from Ukraine, and I didn't take money from anybody. I worked hard. And then I got divorced and gave away half of my net worth to my ex-wife. And before they started, my net worth was about $10 or $11 million. My God, that's fabulous, right? Now they want to take $145 million for my telling the truth. I'm sorry. They're going to sue me again for saying that. But what am I going to do but tell the truth? I'm going to die telling the truth. That's the way I was brought up. That's the way I was trained. That's the reason I did more than any prosecutor ever in the 20th century, because I'm honest. That's why I was able to turn around New York, because New York usually doesn't have an honest mayor. Usually has a Democrat crumb who lets the Democratic machine screw up the city horribly, which is the minimum you can say about Adams. Adams either let them steal money from the homeless fortune that was given in New York, or from the illegal alien fortune, which was even greater, that was given in New York, or he participated in it. And when I look at his shoes and I look at his $5,000 suit, and I mean, I'm pretty good at figuring out criminals. I mean, I was the best one to do it in the 20th century. I never had to make a judgment on Adams, and I gave him the benefit of the doubt. But I got to tell you, President Trump, don't pardon him. You can get embarrassed if you do, because the Democrats don't like him, and they're going to convict him of the other things that he did. And this is the pimple. And it is true, they screwed him. They didn't let him get away with it, no matter how much money he stole. If he stayed loyal to the criminal machine. But he spoke out, and boom. They haven't gone after Hochul. She took more money. 300. That whole deal with the COVID test. So we're going to I'm going to sign off. We're going to ask you, maybe if you're comfortable, and it's early enough and you feel comfortable, Try to go take a look at the moon and see what it looks like. Show them again one more time. Man, I love this stuff about moons. Remember we covered the
eclipse? We went up there.
yeah, you and I and Dr. Maria and her family and Stephen.
Rob made the trip.
We had so much fun at the Trump victory, didn't we?
We really did. Yeah, I think Rob and Steven definitely enjoyed it as well.
See if we can get a picture like that.
I was going to say, Mayor, is that a real picture?
I don't know. How do I know if it's real? I didn't take it. I
see pictures like this, and I always wonder how.
With artificial intelligence, who the hell knows anymore?
Nowadays, you're right.
I mean, you really can tell. So before we go, I want to ask a question. So he made a lot of good appointments, right? He made a couple we got to look into a little. What was his best appointment? What do you think?
Look, Susie Wiles, Chief of Staff, solid choice.
Okay.
One reason I say that, not being in the room, especially this time around, when a lot of these decisions are made.
There's the group.
Yeah, Susie Wiles has stuck by the president's side through it all, right? She was there in 6.
There's the group. I want you to look at the group. Right there. There they are. Put them up. Okay, how about I make it easier rather than the best? Who's the biggest surprise?
Oh, I mean, I think without question right now, and this might be by design, is the pick of Pete Hegseth. And in a way,
no. We don't have Pete up on this one. But Pete Hegseth is the biggest surprise. Absolutely right.
Yeah, for sure. And in a way that would be a positive.
But yeah, look, I'm willing to,
General Milley and these guys should be on notice. These guys need to be on notice.
But I mean, this little group that we
Sure. What we have on the screen here. So I'm going to say Susan Wiles, Chief of Staff. That's kind of let's put that aside. That's such a big pick.
Look,
taking
your campaign manager as Chief of Staff is pretty obvious. Tom Holman, I actually thought he was going to get what Kristi Noem got, DHS, but that's a great choice.
I mean, that's
Stephen Miller. Stephen Miller is probably the guy who is the heart and soul of Donald Trump. That is a fabulous choice. Stefanik is a surprise choice for UN, but a good choice. I wouldn't have thought of Elise for the UN, would you?
I wouldn't think of that.
But when you hear it, you say, "Oh, yeah, that's a great choice."
And
Zeldin too.
Solid
EPA. You wouldn't have thought of Zeldin as EPA.
That's kind of like, yeah.
Walsh is an obvious choice. Huckabee's an obvious choice.
Great choice.
Is an obvious choice. Noem is really not quite an obvious choice. I don't know that I would have thought of DHS. I might have thought of something more in line with what she does as a governor, as a cabinet member. But she's certainly a qualified cabinet member. So I don't think you have in that group. That's a great group.
That's a solid group. I think. Look, the president.
I was surprised that if it's true that he's got Vivek and
Elon Musk at the Department of Government Efficiency.
But together, I kind of spread them out. They have like so much talent.
They're so good.
I'd like to put it elsewhere, and I was hoping he'd run for the Senate.
Well, I was going to say, does this mean Vivek is not in the running for that Senate seat?
I mean, you and I were supporters of him in a secondary role to Trump right from the very beginning.
Oh my goodness.
Remember when I met with him and I said, what I want you to do is you're going to run for the first time. You're going to lose, but leave a good impression of yourself. Boy, he far exceeded that, right?
And that's exactly what he did, Mayor. And by the way, he once in a while he texts me. He always asks how you're doing.
Well, he's fabulous. And look, if this is the way he can contribute, and he and Musk together, balance each other, maybe that's the right choice. I mean, Trump is very, very good at making those decisions. Those are the kinds of decisions
I
used to make about balancing people. And maybe this is a little bit of a holding action, and he still might run for the Senate. So we'll see.
And I think it's someone that could.
Huckabee is a great choice for Israel. He loves Israel. I know Huckabee. I don't just know Huckabee. I love Huckabee. So in a manly way, I love Huckabee. And he loves Israel. And I love Israel. And I can't think of anybody better to entrust Israel to than Mike Huckabee. Wow. That's a great choice.
What a solid guy.
That's an inspired choice, Mike.
And we've done our show, for those that have been with us since the beginning. We did one of our shows from his office.
Oh, yeah, we did. Right. Yeah, we did. Yeah.
I got to find that episode. So thank you. I will always love him for that alone. But what a nice guy. I mean, you've known him for years. I just met him.
No, I knew him by running against him. We became friends running against each other. That's a little weird, huh?
I think there may be some trips to Israel in our future, Mayor.
Oh, I used to go to Israel 3-4 times a year when I was in the security business. I used to steal my best security there. Nobody does security better than Israel because their back is up against the wall. And they have to be perfect because they are surrounded by people who, since at least the days of Muhammad, want to destroy them. Muhammad hated them, left behind him the imperative to destroy them, and too many of them take it seriously. And the more modern ones just disregard it. Well, they better get on the side of the more modern ones because they ain't going to destroy the Jewish people. A lot of people tried and nobody succeeded. And these guys are not going to succeed either. They're part of what we are. They're part of our culture, our civilization. We wouldn't have what we have without the Jewish people. So you attack them, you attack me. Sorry. Well,
Before we sign off, Mayor, and because I want to do this before you say your prayer, Eric Hovde, the Republican nominee for U.S. Senate in the state of Wisconsin, is speaking out. He has some questions. So maybe we end on this video, or do you want to come back?
No, I want
and make some comments. We can listen to it.
It's impossible that they didn't try to steal. Let's take a look.
Let's we'll play a little bit of this here.
They're trained to steal from the day they enter the Democratic Party.
Many people have been wondering why I have remained quiet since election night. I believe it's better not to comment until I have the facts. Wisconsin Election Commission is in the final process of finalizing the canvass from last Tuesday's election. Like many of my supporters, I was shocked by what unfolded on election night. At 1 a.m., I was receiving calls of congratulations, and based on the models, it appeared I would win the Senate race. Then at 4 a.m., Milwaukee reported approximately 108,000 absentee ballots, with Senator Baldwin receiving nearly 90% of those ballots. Statistically, this outcome seems improbable, as it didn't match the patterns from same-day voting in Milwaukee, where I received 22% of the votes. Since last Wednesday, numerous parties have reached out to me about voting inconsistencies, such as certain voting precincts in Milwaukee having turnout of over 150% of registered voters, and in some cases over 200%. Additionally, in 2020, President Biden received 10 million more votes than Vice President Harris did last Tuesday. Yet in Milwaukee, even though the population of Milwaukee has declined, and registered voters declined by 26,330, and early voting numbers were down, somehow Harris received only 1,100 less votes than Biden did, which is not consistent with most major cities. This was accomplished by same-day registration that surged by almost 50% on a rainy day. Many people have reached out and urged me to contest the election. While I'm deeply concerned, asking for a recount is a serious decision that requires careful consideration. Further, there are meaningful limits on a recount because they don't look at the integrity of a ballot. What we do know is that Democrats organized and funded a phony America First candidate, Thomas Leaguer, on the ballot to deceive voters, that this candidate was aligned with President Trump in order to siphon votes from me. Because of this deception, Leaguer received 28,724 votes. Additionally, Democrats propped up the Libertarian candidate Phil Anderson, who garnered 42,344 votes through mailers and digital media to again draw votes away from me. If either of these candidates had not been in the race, the outcome would be different today. Is this right and fair to deceive voters? Is this the democratic process we want? Confidence in our elections is essential to a functioning democracy. It is one thing to lie to voters through TV ads like "I'm a Californian" or "I want to ban abortion" or ban beer. It is another to fund and organize a false candidate to manipulate voters. Another issue that is further undermining our confidence in our election is the failure by Wisconsin and Milwaukee election commissions to clean up our voter rolls. We currently have almost 8 million registered voters on our voter rolls with only 3.5 million active voters. Their primary role should be ensuring fair and accurate elections, and yet they have fallen short. This lack of action raises obvious questions about their commitment to doing their job. What happened in this election does not inspire confidence in our process, and that is wrong. Throughout my campaign, I've emphasized the need to come together, restore trust in our elections, reduce divisions, and focus on building a better Wisconsin for everyone. Once the final information is available and all options are reviewed, I will announce my decision on how I will proceed. Lastly, I want to thank my voters and everyone I've met over the past 9 months. I couldn't have done it without you. This is a difficult decision because I want to honor your support and at the same time bring closure to this election for our state. Thank you for your time.
Well, Eric, thank you for coming forward. I can't evaluate that completely. I can evaluate Arizona, where I have deep concerns that the Democrats this time were afraid to screw around too much with the top of the ballot because of all of the issues that we raised, and because we were on top of them very, very quickly this time as opposed to last time. But it's a party that for 150 years has featured cheating on elections. And it's well known that in these certain cities where they have complete and absolute control, they run them like a dictatorship. So don't get yourself all shocked and yourself in a knot because they might be cheating. I mean, they've been doing it since Boss Tweed, and I come from a city in which if you don't have a Republican or independent mayor, you can be pretty sure the city's crooked. Okay? Like now. So I don't know, but I think Eric should take a good look at it. I think his chances of success, given the fact that that court is a stacked court, that isn't going to give him, they didn't give us a fair decision. They're not going to give him a fair decision. So we'll never know. Simple as that. But someday we have got to get this straightened out. Arizona, we got to look at a few other places. Thank God we scared them away from cheating on the top of the ticket. Thank God. But we took a real beating for doing that, and we continue to. We're election deniers. Yeah, well, so is Casey in Pennsylvania, because he's crying like a baby. Okay. It's always a quest to make a more perfect union, isn't it? And we took a big step last Tuesday, and we're going to build on that step. And we're going to give people like Eric the chance to raise this without condemning him, huh? He might be raising something really important for our future. He might not. We'll see. So pray for the people of Israel, and pray for the people of Ukraine and the people of Iran. And always pray for the United States, and thank God for having given us the wisdom and the courage to make that decision in such overwhelming numbers that it creates a real mandate to straighten out our crooked administration and replace it with an honest one. That's what America's entitled to. And to move us back from the tremendous steps we've made toward atheistic communism. So thank you, God. And God bless America. We'll see you tomorrow night.
It's our purpose to bring to bear the principle of common sense and rational discussion to the issues of our day. America was created at a time of great turmoil, tremendous disagreements, anger, hatred. There was a book written in 1776 that guided much of the discipline of thinking that brought to us the discovery of our freedoms, of our God-given freedoms. It was Thomas Paine's Common Sense, written in 1776, one of the first American bestsellers, in which Thomas Paine explained, by rational principles, the reason why these small colonies felt the necessity to separate from the Kingdom of Great Britain and the King of England. He explained their inherent desire for liberty, for freedom, freedom of religion, freedom of speech, the ability to select the people who govern them. And he explained it in ways that were understandable to all the people, not just the elite. Because the desire for freedom is universal. The desire for freedom adheres in the human mind, and it is part of the human soul. This is exactly the time we should consult our history. Look at what we've done in the past and see if we can't use it to help us now. We understand that our founders created the greatest country in the history of the world, the greatest democracy, the freest country, a country that has taken more people out of poverty than any country ever. All of us are so fortunate to be Americans. But a great deal of the reason for America's constant ability to self-improve is because we're able to reason, we're able to talk, we're able to analyze,